and I will go through them as quick as I can. But welcome everybody to the Pun Kings stream on the Grand Theft Legacy. Since it is not a trial thing, really, I guess there is some trial updates. It's really about the video. Today's about the video. Everybody's been celebrating and having a good time, and it's well earned. It's kind of like if you drop cremated remains in the water, it's well earned. So let's see. There's I don't even know where to begin. This is why we go over the Twitter feed, because there is so much to talk about, and this helps us keep organized. If you are not following me on Rumble, go to Rumble, follow me on Rumble. Here's my Twitter address. Follow me on Twitter. And I make shirts if you want to buy my shirts. But let me see. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit on here to get a better view on this. All right. Yeah, so much stuff today. We're going to go in reverse order. And yes, I'll doesn't matter what order I do, I'm going to be bearing the lead on this one, which I hate to do. But I guess the big, super big updates is the judge. The new judge went in and signed some stuff, including the modified TRO and preliminary injunction, which removes all the speech restrictions. And pretty soon after, we got a part 3, which is awesome. So that's up on the Patreon. I know it's what everybody's talking about. So the Reckless Ben saga, Lego Saga Part 3 focuses on... what's interesting is it kind of focuses on things that happened in between Part 1 and Part 2. And I don't know how many people will quite recognize or catch the dates on some of the pieces of footage or some body cam footage. And if you catch the dates, it happens before March 8, 9, 10. Or maybe it's 9, 10, 11, whatever the dates were for Part 2. It happens before that. So it's a bit crazy that all went down. So anyway, get on Patreon and get and watch it. If you are not on Reckless Ben's Patreon, it will be dropping on YouTube. They said a couple days. I think that's been said by both Reckless Ben and by Sheldon. And I think it's been posted somewhere else, but I don't remember exactly. I guess that's probably something I should have put a tweet out about. I think a lot of people are asking that question. I'm trying to think. I guess I could also just grab a screen grab from Sheldon's live stream. Sheldon had a live stream today, and he went over... it was like he was like, oh, it's gonna be Part 3, updates, or Part 4 updates. He's like, yay, Part 4 updates, and everybody joins in. They rated his stream from Echo Base Network, and so everybody pops in and like, we're here from Echo Base Network, EBN, and then he's like, okay, welcome, thanks everybody for being here. I told you I'm gonna have Part 4 updates, and he's like, I'm in Part 4. That's the update. that was the plan for the stream, which was it was very funny. And he just kind of kept talking through a lot of behind the scenes things. I was able to get a lot of questions answered that I didn't think I was going to get answered, which was just so cool. So he was very responsive to any questions people had. So it was, to me, it was like super awesome to see his live stream. And be able to get a few questions answered. I did want him to talk a little bit more about the tow truck, and I don't know if he got to it because I ended up having to exit at a certain point, but he did talk about them getting kicked out of the Airbnb. And so there's actually multiple Airbnbs. Most people are thinking of the one that happened in Utah, but in Oregon, they were in one and they got kicked out, and that's while they were doing the brick by brick chant. And so he goes in his live stream, he goes over it. But another thing he went over is that they watched some videos on Victor Wen's channel, which I didn't know existed. I actually went looking for it once, and I couldn't find any connection between Reckless Ben's video and another like YouTube channel that might be him. I also did a pretty significant search through Instagram, and I actually thought I found his Instagram that just didn't have any posts, but it might have just not been him. Um, so I did actually did a search for this at one point. And apparently, came up empty-handed. I didn't. I guess I just wasn't looking through the right things. I don't know how this came about. I don't know if Sheldon brought this up or if people in the chat, because I know there's a lot of people in the chat who are like super important researchers in all this. There's a lot of people on various streams, specifically Law Understood Simply's LUS's stream. People that are regulars there, or even people that are like mods there, are like uh, they have a lot of resources, and it's really really cool because you can ask them questions. They're like, oh yeah, I heard that here. They can get you data, and it's so cool. So I don't know if they brought it up and provided the link, or if Sheldon provided the link, but somebody was pointing out, that Victor Wen has his channel, and I have to say that is a clever pun. So Nguyen, I think is how you spell Nguyen, or when. There's like a special pronunciation, but basically when is okay. That's what I've heard from everybody I've ever met with the name, or anytime I've talked to people who know people with the name. When is fine. Um, well, Victor Win is actually really funny. I think it's such a simple little pun. I like it. But that's his channel. During some discussion I had earlier, I completely forgot to post a link to the Sheldon's GoFundMe. There's also I was going to post a link to Brian's GoFundMe as well, and I did not do that. I probably will just do an update on that one tomorrow. But this one's over 19,000, and I think the renewed interest here is going to help us get the word out. So I did just kind of capture that. You can see new donations here or there. It doesn't always do them like in order, but still big, like very generous donors coming in, which is so cool. And this is this GoFundMe. If you want to donate to something that like makes you feel like you do a difference, you make a difference. This is a good one because they want to basically make things or get basically their civil rights were violated, and they want justice basically. So this is a good one for that. If you want to help out with something, because the true crime aspect of this is a huge part for people. So anyway, just my normal pause there. I'm glad I took the time to make the post before talking about it, because I didn't want to forget again. So more really cool stuff. I got in touch with the Toy Bounty Hunters channel, and they reached out, and I got the opportunity to just kind of discuss stuff that's live in part 3, which was so cool. They are great guys there. You've got John and Origami is such a funny pun. But they had a stream, and I got to join in, and I'm just like happy and um, a bit full of myself after seeing it. Like I just hey, I'm famous. No, I'm just humbled that people are like, hey, they're listening. They want to hear these stupid jokes. So good. Got plenty of face palms. Please don't hurt your forehead face palming as much of the jokes that I had. I do have to say that I was able to get a few through that were not recognized. I think Origami got all of them. But I think I got a few through that you may have to rewatch to get. But I did try as hard as I could to just kind of slip the jokes in and see where they landed. But it was a lot of fun. They're great. Yeah, it's not just like they were great hosts. Like it's a fun show to be on. I gotta be honest. I've been watching a lot of different streams, and you get a different experience and different perspectives, and also different like expertise out of each one. And they've been doing this for a while, and like they are good with keeping the audience engaged and everything. It's a lot of fun. Let's see. So another thing, this is relatively a minor update, but Legally Mime, which is this funny website making fun of another website that most people following the story know about. They got an update, and it's really funny. There's been a lot of like talk about how it's more accurate, it's more realistic, it's more accurate now. I actually signed up for the newsletter, and everyone's really like, "Wait, there's a newsletter?" Yeah, I did. I signed up for a newsletter. I've actually never gotten a response other than the original sign up. So they keep making these updates, but they're not really like sending out emails to tell people. At least I don't know. Maybe I signed up too soon and I need to sign up again. But it's funny. Like I thought it was funny enough. I wanted the updates, and so I signed up, and I've had nothing but silence. Oh wait, never mind. I get it. I was supposed to get nothing but silence, but here's the link: legallymime.com, and then this page is partners. I think originally there was only two pages. One was the main page with all the information, and another one was like the there's like a submission form of some sort, which I think was tied to the newsletter. Um, Chrome wheels, ha! All right, and one of the funny things that happened in this, so there's a lot of big news today, and there were some little things that kind of slipped in, and I actually did not check any of the criminal trials to see if there's any new information on those, which I think would be worth taking a look at. But I did just keep taking a look at the excuse me, the court listener. It has also been a long day, fun day, and a very long day. Uh, um, I am I am spinning a pretty heavy yarn with all this. So um, there are some filings that came in. I'm just trying to think of like the right way to say this. Some of them came in out of order, or one of them came in out of order, which is kind of funny. But basically, there was one from the new judge who was saying that they needed to provide more information for the defendants in relation to the removal, which I'm getting several people are saying. But I got a really cool comment here from actually from a few people, but there we go. Legal Bites had put in a very good explanation. So this was super helpful, and basically we're saying that like they need to know where every member is from. So if they had multiple members, then I think that means like chairman or board members or whatever the word is there. But people who are in charge. So if there's multiple people in charge, they would need to know where they're from. And this is good analysis here of like, okay, well, if they were from these specific states, it might change things. And so that's an interesting point. I've actually been kind of asking around today if Reckless Ben LLC, which is a thing that's missing, uh, the what state that they're from, if is that the franchise, like the franchisor of We Steal from Old People. Now, I thought we saw like a document saying it was real and it had a different LLC, but there's also the potential for a joke that there's like 15 different LLCs that own each other. That would be a funny little detail if they did that. I sincerely doubt they did, but anyway, so I didn't actually know if, since it's a named defendant, is it named because it is related to that franchisor. I just didn't really notice that till now that, hey, there should be a reason why this is named. What is that reason? And if that is the franchisor, what does that mean for like who's a member? So as far as I've been able to get information from people, it's probably not the franchisor. It's probably another LLC, and I'm not sure why it exists. Yeah, there's Colin, who's awesome in all this. He's one of the people I was talking about earlier as like a great source for information. Had also given a good answer about that. So the coolest thing happened today, in my personal opinion. So part 3 released, and it has a tiny little clip of Ricky Berwick saying brick by brick, and that is the coolest thing in the wide world. And then we also got a comment from Ricky Berwick. So it is the double coolest thing in the whole wide world. I like that he has been able to keep momentum and keep people engaged on uh, it's kind of like a mission. Like you could easily move on. Something bad can happen to you. I've actually had a really bad experience at a McDonald's once, but then I eventually went back and just like forgot about it. And I'm thinking about it right now, and it was a really like it was crappy. It was just a crappy thing that they did, but sometimes people just move on. I think most time I think people would just move on, but keeping the momentum and because if you rewatch episode one, the piece there that I think is a timeless lesson. I'm probably giving it too much pomp and circumstance by saying that, but one of the thing I think that is a timeless lesson for part one is if your employees, if you're a corporation or you're a business and your employees misbehave in a horrible way, you need to do something about it. And if you go back through part one and you see what horrible things that they did, it is not okay. And we've been hearing a little bit more of that too. I'll talk about the Gormans in a moment, but they were talking more about what Kai told them and more of things that they talked to BB about. And it's not cool. It's very bad stuff. And like demanding an accounting from corporate is normal. People should be up in arms and upset. So brick by brick is a good somebody keeping that momentum is cool. And Ricky is cool. So Barbecue has been all over this. He's put out videos about all of the big updates today, including the new judge and part 3. And well, I guess the removal of the TRO, which is related to part 3. And one of the funny things is I saw some commentary today from him about how he was like racing the clock to see if he could hit his video out before part 3 hits, which is really funny. We were joking about how he was like, why did you bet against yourself? You could have just thrown the race. Like, why did you bet someone that you wouldn't get it out in time? Because you could have just delayed it. So you should have bet that that you did, or whatever. So, but that's funny. And another thing that happened is Reckless Ben announced that part 2 was out by doing a very short video. I can talk again, and it's basically funny because when set next to the message, I can't talk, or this is my last video. That this next to the title of the video that told us that the gag order's there and he can't post any more videos. It's funny. I think that was the goal, was to get them next to each other, because it's like one answers the other. And so this basically, he just explains that the new video's out and he can talk again. It does have never before seen footage of their time out at the radio tower, and you'll see just more to it. And I don't know for a fact that when they're posed on a bunch of rocks, and it looks like he's wearing the same clothes, so I'm assuming it was the same day as this, but I don't know that for a fact. But it seems to be that a lot of that there's more footage from a different location that they went to potentially on that same day. Okay, so part 3 is huge. You got to see it on Patreon. It's I think the smallest tier is $8. You get access to all of his exclusive posts, including the early access to part 3. Should be out in a couple days. People are not like choosing not to talk about spoilers. I think there's plenty of things that are like not huge spoilers, because we know a lot of what he talks about. But we don't know most of what he talks about. So like he talks about a court case that he's already talked about completely in interviews. I think he's talked about it in multiple interviews. So there's no surprise with the court case, unless you haven't seen the interviews, I guess. There's some footage we've already seen where he's talking to the CEO. And we actually, you kind of watch part of it over and over. There's also pieces of information we already have, but it's kind of like a different angle, like them coming and going from the corporate office, and different trips that he's made to Utah for one reason or another, or different trips he's made to Oregon for one reason or another. And it has been advertised as something that's going to make you angry. I think Reckless Ben himself has said that, but I'm 100% sure, or I'm pretty darn sure that everybody else in his close circle that has been interviewed about it has said, "Yeah, this is going to make you angry." So it does. I think it leaves you out, also leaving you feeling a bit sad that like people are going through this, and you just kind of wish you could make it not happen. And when I say going through this, like there is a portion where he thinks he's doing the right thing by providing evidence that he's innocent. But essentially, what it turns into is that the prosecutor is going to use it against him in any way possible. So even though there's exculpatory evidence, things that prove he didn't do anything wrong, their only goal in having it is to somehow dismiss or discount it. That's the only reason, the thing the prosecutor is interested in. They're not interested in the truth. They're not interested in, justice being applied. They're interested in getting a conviction. And I say that with such certainty there because prosecutors that cheat, I think, are the absolute scum of the earth. I think they're the worst of the worst. I think a prosecutor that cheats and lets a killer continue to kill because they prosecuted the wrong person is worse than the killer. I think the fact that they do it for money and glory makes them far worse. So, am I saying this is a prosecutor that cheats? No, I'm not. But I am saying that they deserve judged more harshly than anyone else. And if you were to extrapolate this back in time, and we're not talking about the modern system, we would be talking about judges, or we would be talking about some other position of power that holds, judge, jury, executioner. Same thing for them. Anybody who's ever been in that judge seat who can decide guilt, and in our case, a lot of times it's a jury system, but the people who are in charge of prosecuting that being untrustworthy, bearing false witness, all those things, disgusting and evil. And when they do the bad, evil things, they help bad, evil people hurt innocent people. That's what they do. It's like they're paid to help bad guys get away with it. So I have very little sympathy, very little patience for prosecutors that cheat. And I've been very consistent on that everywhere I've ever said it or posted it. Now, I'm not saying this is a prosecutor that cheats, but I am saying they deserve the scrutiny, and they don't deserve the benefit of the doubt. So him giving them that evidence, unless he was absolutely forced to do it, he should have saved it for his defense and whatever the proper process is. I do think there's going to be this is 100% speculation because I've heard this story before where somebody related to the defense provides evidence that could potentially, but isn't, be exculpatory. It could defend them or show that they didn't do it. The prosecution either doesn't take it seriously or somehow otherwise buries it. And so then the defense goes looking for it. And when it's not returned, then all of a sudden they have a prosecutor that in that view tried to cheat. And I think there are cases where that is an honest mistake, and I think there's cases where it's definitely cheating, and I think there's cases where it's cheating the other way, where the defense provides false things, knowingly provides false things, and when the prosecution correctly predicts that it's false, they still try to use it as a technicality to get out of it. So I think there's a whole spectrum of times that this happens. But what I think is going to be interesting is if he turns all this over and they have to give him exculpatory evidence and they don't give him back every last file, is that going to be some kind of violation? And he should know what to expect back. Now, do they have to provide it if they know that he has it? I don't know. But I think it's going to be an interesting little tidbit that they're not going to consider it like evidence for one reason or another. And there's actually a clip in part 3 where the prosecutor says something that's really kind of suspicious, like this is not, we don't trust this evidence for one reason. Isn't it up to the judge? Like, it was weird. It was just the way it was said. It feels like the prosecutor gets to decide what evidence is allowed. And it just didn't feel right. Now, it could just be how it's framed. It could be, something misinterpreted. But I thought that was a really interesting little segment there of a prosecutor saying, like, this doesn't count for this reason. And just wondering, like, Isn't that like way out of place? Oh, I'm looking at my chat now, and I see Goosey 2025. Hey, how is it going? Um, as I will tell everybody, hay is for horses. And as everybody over a certain age should know, um, does eat oats and mares eat oats, but little lambs eat ivy. A kid will eat ivy too, wouldn't you? I think you have to be over a certain age, like a lot older. I think you have to be older than Gen X to know what that is. Uh, I just know that I have heard that a million times. Um, it's a real poem though. Like I've looked it up. It's intended to sound like gibberish. Okay, so yeah, episode 3 is out on Patreon. Again, Ricky Berwick made the cut. Actually, a lot of YouTubers made the cut. There's little clips where it just kind of takes like just to show support or how big the story has gotten. It shows little clips from various streamers, and a lot of people we watch made it, and a lot of people, or some of them, were like very recent. So this stuff, there's people watching. There's people involved who are looking for the really cool stuff. I've got my suspicions on who may be like plugged in and providing that, but it doesn't matter. Like this is a good thing. It's not like because we do know that there's bad actors out now. I even got a troll today, and normally I get people with a difference of opinion, and I'm more than happy to like it and discuss it. And I'm more than happy to for someone to get the opportunity to prove me wrong, or to get the opportunity to get the last word. Actually, I don't need the last word. I want to make a joke, but I do not need the last word. Um, so I'm more than happy, to learn something or disagree. But I got my first troll today with legit corporate troll. And we know that they have been active because we've seen them in things, especially like on Facebook. People have been highlighting their activity. There's also been a lot of people who've been suspected of it. I found some people in various chats on live streams that I immediately went looking to see if they're even legit accounts. So we know that corporate stooges, corporate bots are out. And so, you kind of got to be careful of that. But we're not really talking about, oh, there's bad actors. There's people who are plugged into what the current movement looks like, the brick by brick movement, and the Justice for Tattle movement. That one's so much fun. I was so down on that story until I saw DFJ's. I think it was her latest video where she basically said, "But why not give the bird back? Like, why would that? Why would your plan not? Why would you have any plan other than come get your bird?" And that's a great point. Because if you didn't have that plan, then you were up to bad things. Like just thinking about there wasn't that long ago we had a dog. It's so hard to explain. There's no leash laws, and some people let their dogs roam. And this dog had gotten lost and had been hanging around our yard. So we let her in, and we took care of her for about a week before we found the owners. And imagine if we just decided to keep the dog. Now, it wouldn't have been as bad because it's like, this is a stray dog. Okay, we're going to take care of you. So I guess it's a little bit different than that. But imagine we didn't even try to find the owners. And that's probably not even as bad as this. But like, they didn't even try to give the easy way. They didn't even try the easiest thing. They went straight to the hard thing that probably hurt the bird, which is pretty terrible. So I grew up. My parents had parakeets, several different generations of parakeets, and different also parakeets that weren't from that generation. So I grew up with parakeets. I'm used to the noise. Also a cockatiel. I am used to them and their behaviors and everything. I've never really taken care of them by myself. There was one parakeet I was kind of helping pretty much every day of the week. I was over to help with, but so I have tended to parakeets before, and so I know a little bit about them. And honestly, I'm going to say the same thing that I told my kids, because we had a bird's nest that was in a really crappy place, but they wouldn't let me get rid of it. And I'm going to tell the same thing I told my kids is, if you want to understand bird behavior, there's really one thing you need to know: birds are stupid. And it actually explains a lot. Like the bird in the nest here tried to abandon one of its young, tried to kick it out of the nest, and even though it probably wasn't the best idea in the world, we put it back in the nest, and it actually ended up doing fine, and flying away. We watched them as they each learned to fly, which was actually amazing. I didn't expect that to happen. I was thinking there was another week out before they would do that. But that whole thing where it's like a bird will kick a bird out of a nest. Well, why do they do that? Well, they're not human. They don't have the humanity that we would expect. But the other part is there's a lot of things that happen, like birds are stupid. And it's a good way to put it. And so we actually got one of the parakeets to almost repeat that, which is pretty funny. But no, they are great pets. They're really good pets if you're into birds. I love parakeets. I like them way better than cockatiels and parrots and whatever. The larger birds, because the larger birds have to be the loudest thing in the room. It's like an instinct, and I can't handle that. But the smaller birds are happy just chirping away, and it's so much fun to get them little bird toys. Anyway, I don't keep birds now, and I probably wouldn't. But I've had birds. Anyway, I just know how hard. Like, so the cockatiel, I know how hard it was to find a home for that thing. So it was a family member, like a once removed cousin or something, was getting rid of it, and so my parents took it. Like, I know how hard that is to find a home. So if you have the easy way, why would you ever do the hard way? So and even with all that, I just didn't think there's much of the bird story until I heard that. I just, sorry, that's just the way it was. I do say, I know that's going to sound harsh. I say birds are stupid with as much respect as possible to the birds. Okay, so oh yeah, I talked about the small video. So Reckless Ben put out a little teaser video. It has some additional footage from from the trip to the radio tower. I talked through that. There's new memes, and I think this is the cool one. So this actually, I've seen this posted a couple different times. So Alex the Fiction is a really cool guy, and he's in a lot of different chats. So if you ever get a chance to say hi, he's pretty awesome, and he does mod LUS's stream. So I just wanted to double check. I'm 99% sure that he's the lead mod, I think. So anyway, he put this out. It's so funny. I would disagree. I don't think Spiky Ben, I know people have suggested that. I don't think Spiky Ben would fit. I think Teacher Gorman or Silent Ben, because he was the silent partner. I think that was a good one. But anyway, so we found out Jammin' Ben is what they call Sender. No, I don't know. When I say they, I don't know if they like say it to his face. Like, do they need to specify? I had when I was in school, we had multiple people named Nick, and so just out of nowhere, we started calling one of them Window Nick. And it's just such a funny story because he's like, "Why do I have to be Window Nick?" Well, you're by the window. Well, why can't he just be, Door Nick because he's by the door? Well, that's stupid. That doesn't make any sense. Why would you call someone that? You're just Window Nick. And he's like, well, could we switch seats? And at one point he did switch seats, and we still called him Window Nick. So the idea that there's another pen and they had to come up with a term for it, I don't know if they ever said it to him, but it sounds like that's what they say, what they call him. So Jammin' Ben, I've heard Skater Ben, I think, as another one. But he's in part one. I think he's also in part two in some scenes, but I think his main... you mainly see him in part one, and he ends up being the other Ben, the body double that they swap out at the store. I still have some questions about when they were selling merchandise in front of the store, and it's not really in front; it was in back. But I still have a little bit of questions here and there, but I think I've got most of my stuff answered there. And then everybody's favorite, Spineless Ben. I think he could pet a porcupine. I think he could grab the backbone of a skeleton. I think he could. I don't know how far I'm going to go with that. Anyway, and then Reckless Ben. So the different Bens. I kind of want this to grow. I want there to be more Bens because it'd be funny if there was more Bens. Okay, so then also there was some stuff today about Chris reports things. So we found out a lot of the different court updates, either directly from Chris reports things, also known as awkward begets awkward. We've seen, lots of different updates. This is someone who's been important on getting new information out fast. I'm pretty sure that's how we got some of the documents today that on Court Listener was that Chris reports things had logged in and grabbed them. But there's actually like an ask in this one about potentially helping get. I didn't fully follow it. It sounds like he's probably having trouble because he talked about it the day before. I think he's having trouble being considered like a media to get into the trials to broadcast. And so there's kind of an appeal here to help get that resolved. I don't know if that's 100% accurate based on what's said here. It kind of says, I need to help getting access to the Utah courts. And I just think that maybe I'm saying all of that wrong. But this is this was an interesting one. The thing that really caught my eye is so it sounds like he's helping watch a nephew. Mom and dad must be working or something. And just the funny thing, he's a way cooler than you guys. was so funny, way cooler than all of you combined. I thought that was a great little quote there. But I did put a link to I don't know if it's Coffee or Ko-Fi. Coffee would be an interesting pun, but there's a dash. So here's the Ko-Fi account, and here's a link to the Reddit. Barbecue Counselor had put out a video today talking about the preliminary injunction, which was pretty big deal. That's basically what allowed the video to come out, and so that was like the big thing before the video came out, and everybody was like happy and excited and laughing and sharing things and like spamming refresh on Patreon and spamming refresh on his YouTube channel and even Instagram, like give it to us now. I can say one thing though. I did get an answer to something, and this is sort of kind of related. I'll just go ahead and bring this up. So there also is another thing kind of sitting around where Sheldon had posted a update on his Patreon about how there's a new video coming up and it's crazy and there's 300 hours of footage. I did ask him in his live stream if this was a different project, and he said yes, that this is related to a different project. He didn't really give a lot of direct information on what it's related to, but we know that there is another project in the works, and we've known that for a while. It's been said, I think, on several interviews with Ben. But that being said, there was already expectation that an unrelated video might drop at any moment. But then this made it so that everybody's like, oh, this video is coming soon. It's coming like right away. So yeah, everybody's sitting there spamming refresh. And yeah, I just went through, again, I'm not very great at understanding all these legalese and everything, but it seems like this is the relevant section everybody's waiting for, that like it can't be construed to nothing is ordered will prohibit defendants from discussing the plaintiffs, commenting on it, whatever. So this was like end the gag order. And then another thing about nothing here can be construed to say that they're not allowed to. I think the intention is to bring countersuits or whatever, but claims of damages. Nothing will prevent claims of damages. So everything everybody was expecting. Point 3, I think a lot of people were upset with, but it is what it is. And I did annoyingly ping everybody I possibly could. And then, so there was an interview yesterday with Teacher Gorman Ben and Chris Gorman, the Gormans. And it was on Echo Base Network, and it was really fascinating. They went over a lot of details, and there's a couple things that really caught my eye. So his shirt says Roll for Initiative. It's like a D&D reference. It looks like it says Bricks and Minifig inside though. There's also they talked about Kai and how when they were talking with Kai before they recorded. So there was one, I don't know if they were in another location and there wasn't a camera recording or whatever, but they talked to him about the consignment more than that one time. They also talked to BB about the consignment and what the stickers mean and everything. So according to this, and I've been thinking about this all day, like these things happening are not established facts, but them claiming these pretty much the only witnesses talking about it saying these things is the news. So they say that they talked to Kai more than once. They say that they talked to BB about the consignment. It all seems to add up. But I did want to add that caveat. There's a lot of cases where somebody said a quote is the news, and this is one of those cases. Somebody quoted or created this little soundbite. Another thing I've been wondering all this time is whether or not people who buy an existing franchise have to go through the big doc, like what do we call it, the handbook document. She calls it something else, the operations manual. And she's like, she never saw it and she never had to go through that training. And she actually explains in detail why she didn't have to go to the training and what she did instead. So I thought that was super interesting, but it definitely answered one of my big questions of like, have they gone through that training? So that's, that's cool that we got an answer to that. I'm really happy we got that. The other thing that really caught my attention, I did kind of gloss over it, and I did mention this somewhere else, that they use Slack, and they actually gave a little bit of a more of a view. It was actually on a completely unrelated question. They had to talk about what Slack was. So they started talking about how the corporation uses it, and they started talking about how channels are set up and how stores get their own channels, and that there's corporate channels and these other things that are sort of like corporate that get their own channels. And I've been using Slack for a long time, so I know quite a bit about what its capabilities are and everything. But one of the things I know for a fact is that Slack is a lot like an email server in that they have to preserve records. And your chats on Slack are not private. Whatever corporation runs it can export your conversations. So anything private, whether it's a private channel or private messaging, it can be retrieved. People in charge may retrieve it regularly, but nothing you do on there is private. And I'm going to tell an anecdote in just a second. But the other half of this is that even if it's not corporate forcing that request, it could be asked of, law enforcement could ask for it, or could be subpoenaed in a lawsuit or something. So those things can be seen. So never ever think that you have a private conversation on Slack. So if anybody who happens to be using Slack, especially if you're from a company whose initials are BAM, do not have private conversations that could be, painful to you over Slack. Unfortunately, there are. I had a case where somebody was basically being discriminated against because of his disability. Essentially, he was legally blind but not actually blind, so they're just being jerks about it, and there's a much longer story to it. So I had a conversation with him via the private messaging, and one of the things we kind of landed on was like, well, let's not talk too much here, because I really wanted him to reach out to an advocacy group. So I actually called on his behalf, but he refused to call. But we were very careful what to say because we knew it could be exported. But just to point out, don't do things that you would consider bad, inappropriate, dangerous on private channels on Slack, because the people in charge can get to it. There's also that anecdote. So I worked for a very big company, and that very big company had no good messaging solution. And the reason they had no good messaging solution is because they had people using all kinds of operating systems. Most places it's like you have a Mac or Windows, so you really only have to support two, and what version is going to be on it because IT is taking care of it. If anybody has a version of Windows that goes out of support, or a version of Linux of whatever flavor they have goes out of support, then the IT people are going to get it all the way updated, so that they will have latest. Um, Basically, that was not the point I was trying to make. That's what I'm trying to get back to it. Uh, Usually, Windows and Mac, you will have a web communication system. You could end up with various many bajillion operating systems. And they can't keep those. They can't keep the communication system up. That's where I got lost there. They can't keep the communication system all the way updated. So if you're not using something centralized like Slack, you've got a problem. So a very large company, tons of people using tons of different really specific operating systems. Uh, how do they get the communication system to be consistent? How do they get people on different operating systems to talk to each other? How do they organize meetings? Big crazy thing. Well, Slack solves that for a lot of people. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but it is not the greatest thing in the world. Well, this really big organization couldn't use it. Why? Well, even though they could self-host it, and it's actually not really a normal thing to self-host it, but even though that they had the opportunity to, which I won't talk about why, they still couldn't trust it because that meant that their internal communications could be viewed against their will, and it could involve competitors. It could involve really sensitive things. So yeah, I've been in a company that couldn't use Slack because of security reasons. And even though it seems like it shouldn't be that big, but anyway, yeah, just be aware. And another thing, which if you've watched part 3, I did say this on the Toy Bounty Hunter stream, but if you are going to do anything that could potentially be nefarious, sign up for a service like Proton Mail or another service with encrypted email that allows you to pick aliases so that they can't like subpoena your whole life. Because it's better to have a bunch of like aliases that are kind of tough to track, and they're not really aliases. I think they're considered something else, but they're really like, okay, I have me, this is my account, and then I also have this is my YouTube channel account, or this is my YouTube channel account that I use. It's sort of kind of like that, but I use it to handle one very specific thing, like subscriptions or something. Those are great because they're not going to like take your life away. There's actually a service I've used in the past. I've signed up as a like worker at this service, and they gave you fake Gmail accounts, and it's so weird. It's definitely very suspicious. And the reason they do that is so that when you sign up for any third party that they're going through to do their work, that they have full control over that account. And they also know that it'll be unique. And if you actually need a second one, you can use their thing to generate that next fake account. Anyway, so it's a thing that people do. But be careful with Slack and email addresses. Don't. If you can avoid signing up with your main email address to suspicious things, then go ahead and do it. Get something like Proton Mail or I used to use Skiff, but it doesn't exist anymore. I loved Skiff; it was one of my favorites. But it does no longer exist, which caused me such a headache. So I shouldn't like it anymore. Yesterday Sheldon had his first live stream. I think I talked about this yesterday. I just didn't go through it. But there's been big updates, and so I kind of followed those today. Just to keep it super brief, so there was a lot of footage and a lot of criticisms like, well, you talked to Amanda for longer than the video shows that you did. What did you say? Well, they had a ton of footage. They had to cut it down. So they had to be able to fit it into a time thing. That's why those are cut out. It's not. I think it's easy to say it's nefarious. I was even wondering a little bit, but there's a super easy explanation. And I think that if needed, they would provide more of the footage. But I don't. This isn't really the kind of thing where like they're like, oh, here's the behind the scenes. Here's the entire conversation with so and so. And it would go weird too because I know that there's a lot of like privacy questions. So there's the blur that's stuck on the video one because they were trying to, basically the automated system screwed up. So anyway, yeah, we talked about jamming Ben. They got kicked out of their Airbnb. I mentioned that. So he talked about that in his latest stream. Sheldon talked about why, and he showed the little clip. But then they got kicked. Basically, what was surprised me is they got kicked out of the Airbnb in Oregon, and they had to find a new place. And he actually told a story about his car needing to get towed and how it really annoyed the owners. And I think it's an interesting story. I'll skip that one. I didn't like the way he talked about the employee they took to the woods. I just thought that he probably should have been a little nicer. He had a reason for it. He explains why he was being a little mean, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Not a huge deal. So this is the big thing, and this probably isn't big for a lot of people, but this was big for me. So people have been bringing up this criticism that Brian was involved in another lawsuit. And if he was involved in another lawsuit and they didn't really disclose it and it was happening around the same time, then are they being dishonest? And is he sue happy? Or, does this prove this pattern of behavior? Like, those are the kinds of things that have been brought up as like detractors. And there's actually quite a few cases throughout this whole story where people don't have to be perfect for what happened to them to be bad. So if Brian is not perfect, but they stole his Legos, they still stole his Legos. So it is a weird point to make. But Sheldon does explain in this live streams from yesterday what a little bit about that. So I guess he hired a roofing company for some kind of dream house. The roofing company screwed up. It caused damage to the dream house, and they have never been able to move it. And so they were expecting the people who messed up to pay for it. So that's what that lawsuit was all about. And it's like not a secret. That was the thing. Like, I was thinking maybe it's just personal information. It happened a long time ago. That's why we're not hearing a lot about it. But that's actually something Sheldon brings up. It wasn't a secret. It's probably also just wasn't included for time, or because it felt like it just wasn't part of the story. I don't think they ever intended to make that in any way a secret. And I think it was just by accident. But he talks openly, and nobody really even accuses him of anything. He's just like, oh yeah, by the way, Brian also had this other lawsuit. Like, he just talks about it, not as a defense, not even in a defensive way. But that answers a big question. Now, I think it'd be interesting to see a little bit more information about it. But it, whatever. This helped me a lot with just being curious. There just wasn't enough information to ever really talk about it. So I probably mentioned it in the stream before, but I've never really posted about it. Like, oh, there's this other lawsuit. We should find out what it is. There just wasn't enough information. And from what I'm hearing here, finding that information might be completely irrelevant, just because we know enough details to say that's probably not evidence of any kind of bad behavior, as detractors like to say. All right, and that actually should lead us to the end. Yeah, so that is all the updates for today. The big one again is the TRO has been removed, and there's a part 3. We're seeing a lot more people stream. One of the coolest things we saw today is there was streams that were like started, and then they would raid the next guy, then they would raid the next guy, and they would raid the next. It's so cool. People were even so there's a user named Savvy Turtle who's been going around and doing all kinds of really cool things today, donations and just motivation for everybody, and just being a really cool part of all this. So he actually was when he was in the Toy Bounty Hunter stream, he was talking about like, let's do like a block party, like a Lego block party. That's funny, Lego block party. We'll put it together. We'll follow the instructions. So the idea is, let's keep the party going. And that's so cool. And it actually ended up happening kind of by accident. So one stream rated another stream, rated another stream, rated another stream. So cool. That's awesome. So yeah, I've just been happy. I think today has been, like I said, long day, super tired. I may be barely stringing words together, but they sound eloquent to me through all this. But it has been a fun day. Everybody's been happy and celebrating that, like, okay, we got to see part 3. That's what we've been waiting for all this time. But then at the end of it, like angry and or sad or frustrated or whatever emotion you hit, part 3 is emotional. And it's hard to say it isn't, because it really is, because it's just, I got almost a feeling of hopelessness, and that made me frustrated. Like, this sucks. Like, there's got to be some way to stop this from happening. There has to be. I think there's a point in time where they call him a fool and possibly a loser, and it's like there's got to be repercussions for that. And basically, a police officer says these things. You have to watch it to understand the context of it, because I think it goes by. I think most people have noticed it, but it kind of goes by. It's easy to miss. But an officer calls him a fool, and it's completely not fitting. And so there's got to be something that happens, something that changes. And so, yeah, getting out of this, you can feel sad and angry and frustrated. And I think most people will. And I know we've been hearing that from the North Korean hackers. No, from people commenting on this, you're going to get upset. So anyway, part 3 today, it came out today. You have to be on Patreon to see it. It'll be on YouTube in a few days. I know I've said that a bunch of times, but I hate bearing the lead, so I just want to say it again. And yeah, it's been a good day. So, well, I think that covers all the stuff for today. And hey, it's just after midnight, so I ended a lot earlier than I normally do. So, thank you everybody for sticking around. And I'm actually changing my pitch from now on. Yes, Rumble is great. Yes, Rumble is changing, but also just based on some things I've been seeing lately, it is an awesome place to multicast to, so that if you're streaming, you're doing like Restream or anything like that, StreamYard, you're going to multiple places. Rumble is an awesome destination, if only for backup. I have seen so many channels get just suspended permanently from YouTube for like almost nothing. When I say almost nothing, it's like their first strike, and the strike wasn't even that big of a deal. You'd think they'd overlook it. I've seen it happen all the time, and the ones that backed up to Rumble are so happy that they did. So consider it a place that is your backup. If you don't see the value of it at face value, which I do, I love streaming on Rumble. But if you don't see and participating in the chats, like there's so many cool streamers out there that I love to just participate in the chats. But if you don't see the value at it, right off the bat, keep it around as your backup, because when everything else fails you and the auto mods destroy your livelihood, it will still be there. So yeah, definitely consider Rumble. And if you are not making content but you have hobbies, absolutely do it. We need to save. There's so much knowledge out there that could potentially be at risk of going away. Especially if you are doing something that's kind of like an old world. What do they call that? Trad? I don't know. I don't know the new terms. If you do something that's kind of like an old world skill, I keep talking about looms because my grandmother was taught how to do a specific type of looming, and she helped someone get it recorded somewhere in a book and save it. And this was a long time ago. But that's why I always bring that up. There are people out there that have these weird skill sets that they don't know are going extinct. And yeah, get those things recorded, get them saved. And Rumble is a great home for it. So yeah, that's my pitch. I do that every single time. Thank you everybody for joining. And this is a crazy party. Welcome to the party, everybody. A wild ride, keeping everybody together. Bridging the gaps. This is interesting. But yeah, I'm so happy to be getting to know everybody and just seeing everybody work together. This is a cool story to follow. So, all right, with that, good night, everybody.